Hi, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. Welcome to Loom Knitters Sockumentaries. This series of videos accompanies my book, Socks of All Sorts for Loom Knitters. This book gives you 5 styles of sock top to choose from, 3 styles of heels, from traditional to super easy, 3 styles of toes, sizes from infant to extra large adult, and toe up and toe down methodology. You use the pattern by selecting your details, size, and gauge, and inserting the correct values from charts that are included into a fill-in-the-blank pattern. By doing this, you can knit about 1,000,000 styles of sock in any size you wish. The videos are to help you with some basic skills that make your sock knitting successful. Let's talk about a way to finish sock tops other than the traditional grafting method. I'm going to bind off. This is not my favorite way. I don't think it's quite as nice. Nobody really thinks it's quite as nice. Grafting is the preferred method. Grafting is also known as Kitchener stitch. However, in spite of my outstanding video on the subject, some people just hate grafting. And I get that because I myself hated it for a number of years before I finally got good at it. Okay, I had a little mishap with the yarn. I think we're back in business. It's a skill that takes some time to learn, grafting is. And in the meantime, before you get good at it, you may want to make some socks without saying words that no respectable person should ever say. And although the sock police may disagree with me, there are other ways to close a sock toe. One of them is seaming, and in this particular case, it's highly acceptable. And the reason why sometimes it's more acceptable than others is it depends what the socks are being used for. The point of grafting or Kitchener stitch is that it makes the absolutely smoothest closure. And a smooth closure is important to comfort in socks, especially when they're inside shoes. The bumpier the closure, the more likely you are to get blisters from it. And that can be anywhere from uncomfortable to dangerous. But every sock does not go inside a shoe. The child who wears this sock won't be able to walk, so they won't have that problem. This isn't baby sock. And this kid is not going to care if we put a neat seam on it, so it gives me the opportunity to show you how to do that. Now I'm binding off with a method known as the transfer method. You move stitch 1 to peg 2. If it grew, which that one just did, shorten it. Wrap peg 2 and lift both stitches over and continue on around. And this is pretty straightforward except at the corners. But you can do it. There it goes. I think this is simple enough. I will see you when I get around. Alright, let's seam our little sock toe. There was my last stitch bound off. And here is the first stitch on the other side. So what I'm going to attempt to do is locate the bind off for each stitch and match them up in pairs to make a neat seam that is not grafted. I don't do this a lot, so we'll see how I do. Honestly, I do prefer the other method now that I'm good at it. But I used to do this a lot when I wasn't good at it, and I do understand why you would want an alternative. There it goes. It's neatening up all right. Let's look. I've been into that one, and I've been into that one. So the next two are this and this. It can be a little confusing to look at, and the neatness of the seam depends very much on really finding the stitches in order. Now the nice thing is the bind off is neat and finished. So if you do your seam and you don't care for it, you can take it out without harm and do it again. That's coming along. I just spotted a problem, and I'm going to own up to it in a minute and show you how to fix it if it happens to you. But let's get the seam across first. And I'm at the other side. Well, it wasn't too bad, was it? Here's my problem. Although I was careful, I did not notice that I had dropped a stitch. And at this stage in the game, I'm going to fix it with a fudging method, but it's really quite a good method. I have this little latch needle. This is from my knitting machine, and I'm going to use it as a tool. If you didn't have one, you could use a crochet hook. And what I just did, I'm going to do it again. The stitch dropped and it ran one row. So I'm picking up the stitch and I'm knitting back the dropped row. This is what should have been caught in the bind off and somehow was not. Now, because this yarn is stretchy, I think the neatest thing that I can do is work it in and out back down the seam, making sure I don't over tighten, rather than tying a knot, because knots make stiff places, and starting anew. I don't care for that. I'm going to pull it out. Okay, that to me was too visible. The principle is okay, but I'm going to work with my hand inside so that I can just barely catch the back of the seam and it won't show very much. Better. Stretch it to make sure I'm not going to restrict the stretch of the toe. Catch the dropped stitch. Now, just because there's no such thing as too careful, I'm going to run the yarn through the drop stitch again. And I'm going to bury it without a knot by going in and out of this column of stitches. There is no likelihood that this yarn tail will work itself all the way out. Let me stretch it. You can't see it. It's restricted in its movements. And voila, a cute little teeny baby sock. And the very corners, they tend to stick out till you wash them. If you've done it properly, that's fine. They will calm down. If not, you may have to go back and neaten the seam. There it is.